Hello. Just getting all set up here. Takes me a minute. I keep reorganizing all my notes here and then I can't find anything. You think I'd learn, wouldn't you? Okay, I think I've got it. Every time I reorganize stuff, I can never find it. I always think I'll put it somewhere, I'll never lose it. And that's when I'm going to lose something. And I rarely ever lose anything, actually. But yeah, I tend to get a bit discombobulated sometimes. Okay, so while we're waiting, I'd love to know where you're from and how old your kids are. And I'm going to be doing this for 30 minutes, and then I'm going to be transferring over to TikTok for 30 minutes. I split my lives in half these days. Okay. Yeah, I don't let people on my my lives. I only did it once, and this person, she said she had a parenting question that looked really interesting, and then she got on and started talking about her business. You know, people want your audience, right? So I thought, yeah, I won't do that again. I will in future, but I've got some future plans coming up where I'll bring people in, but it'll be like, planned ahead of time. Okay, so let's get going with your parenting questions. Oh, okay, Australia, 20 months old. My kids were born and raised in Australia. Florida, welcome, Florida. Michigan, 9, 7, and twins, 4.5. Boy, you're busy. New Zealand, 16 months. We used to ski in Queenstown when we lived in Australia. San Diego, grandkids, 3.5 and 5.5. Excellent. Mississauga, age 4 and 3 months old. You can tell I'm Canadian because I know how to say Mississauga. Okay, Morocco, 1 month old. 2 and almost 4. Excellent. Sydney, Australia. My son was born in Sydney. 18 months and currently pregnant, due in a week. Well, you're going to be very busy. It's busy with a toddler and a newborn because how does the toddler know what's going on, right? Okay, 11, 8, 5, and 3 in the UK. Welcome. Okay, let's get going with your parenting questions. Another New Zealand. Welcome. Maryland, 2 years old. Calgary, 15 months. Baby due in February. You're going to be busy too. Malta, 18. I don't even know where Malta is. Do I? Have I been there? I think I've been to Malta. I don't know. Anyway, sorry about that. Hi, yesterday you said for punishment we can take away a kid's toy and put it where they can see but not touch. What if they're bold enough to take it up? What is my next one? What do you mean bold enough to take it up? You mean they can reach it? How can they get it? You're bigger than them. How old are they? 16? Like, I don't understand how you can't put something on top of a fridge or, yeah, I don't know what you mean by that. So you're going to have to explain that again because I don't quite know what you mean by that. Okay. Just so you know, I'm also filming on YouTube at the same time. That's where all of these lives are saved. And excuse the way I look. I look so scruffy today. I'm cold. Orlando, 14 months. Welcome. Okay, how do I get my 19-month-old to sit through dinner? She always wants to say, all done, and wants to get out of her high chair. That's okay. Just keep chatting as if she hasn't said anything. And just let her sit there. Like, that's okay. You have to go through some rough patches to teach them things. A lot of people say, how do we teach them this with no scene, no fit, no crying? You can't. That's their process. That's what stops a lot of parents from following through with stuff is they just don't want the scene. Scenes are okay. It's okay if they sit there and start screaming. That's okay, as long as they're finished eating. I mean, if they are finished eating, maybe they do want to get down. Like, what do you know what I'm saying? Or are they not finished eating? They just want to get down. Yeah. Greece, welcome. I've never been to Greece. I think I'll get everywhere one day. How do I deal with my baby hitting me? So you got to just say no and just hold their hands really gently. If they keep hitting, turn them around so that when you're holding them, they're facing the other way. Or if they're coming, you always have to intervene. Babies and toddlers are about consistent corrective actions. They're not about words. Just use the word no, so they will attach that to something they shouldn't be doing. But right now, that's never enough. It's always about actions. So toddlers are about consistent corrective actions, as are babies. But you never want to say no to a baby where they cry. You don't go, no, like you just go, no, and then you hold their hand every time they do it. But you want to, now that you know they're going to hit you, you want to intervene before they hit you and you say no. So, yeah, they'll learn. It's not a quick fix. It's a slow burn. It's going to take a while. LA, 5 years and 20 months. Excellent. So you've got a toddler and you're out of the real tough age is when you got a toddler and a baby. That's the real tough age. I think that's the toughest, actually. Although a lot of my clients who have teenagers would disagree, and I get that. New York, how to keep 5-year-old to stop copying bad behavior, learned while visiting family members. Okay, if they're 5 years old, they're under your leadership umbrella. If you're a really strong, calm leader, they're not susceptible to anyone else's influence. They just aren't. So work on your leadership skills. Past the age of about 3.5 to 4, they are carrying your leadership umbrella everywhere, and they are not vulnerable. If you're not a leader, they are very vulnerable out there in the world. They're very susceptible to peer pressure, bad influences, the bullies, drug dealer on the corner, the internet, the Kardashians. They're just going to be very vulnerable. So work on your leadership skills. Check out my boot camp course if you're interested. How to deal with tantrums at nighttime with a 4-year-old. Same way that you deal with them during the day. You completely ignore tantrums, like you're filing your nails, but don't go on your phone. I think that's rude and dismissive. When they're having a tantrum, you just look like you're waiting, like you're just waiting for a bus kind of thing. Don't look at them, don't talk to them. As soon as they're done, say, okay, y'all done? Okay, let's go off to bed now, or whatever. Just treat it like it didn't even happen. It just works. It just does. Not the first time. They're gonna kick and scream. If you've given into tantrums and fed them, attention is tantrum food. If you've been feeding a tantrum and all of a sudden you decide to do it my way and not feed that tantrum, they're gonna be worse before they get better because they remember the old you. So, but it's worth it. You got to be willing to walk through that firewall to get to the other side. You got to be willing to go through the storm, right? You have to. If you're afraid of a scene, you're never going to get anywhere with this. Like I've actually worked with kids where they've threatened to have a scene with me. They've actually threatened me. If you don't give me what I want, I'm going to have a fit. And this is me. Bring it on. Like there's no way I could be manipulated with the scene. Never. That's my opportunity to exercise my leadership. I'm happy when they do that because that's my opportunity. Every scene is your opportunity to teach them. That's where the lessons are learned, is through those scenes, fits, and tantrums. Those are the lessons. If you try and intervene with that and stop it and prevent it, I wouldn't in a million years. I'm like, bring it on. I know what I'm doing. And then they usually, if they're older especially, they don't usually have a tantrum or a fit because they see my reaction. They're like, oh, never mind. But anyway, I've worked with a lot of kids. Okay, you got a 3-year-old who only plays when you're there. Start the play with them and then look like this. Oh, shoo, I have to go and make some cookies or something. Look like, oh, shoot, I forgot about that. Look distracted. Oh, okay, I'll come back in a minute. Just keep doing that. They'll eventually learn. But also, have you got a toy rotation system going so that they aren't bored with their toys? If you have all their toys out at once, they're not going to learn how to focus. And also at 3 years old, he's kind of manipulating you. He kind of knows that it bugs you, that he's always bothering you. So yeah, look like you're distracted, like, oh shoot, I have to go do the dishes and the laundry or something. Look like you got, and I'll come back. So just keep doing that. But make sure you're doing a toy rotation system so they're never bored. Rotate their toys. Do not have everything out all at once. I don't like toy rooms or play rooms. I don't like them. I never understood that. You want your kids in some other room playing? I wanted to watch my kids play. I wanted to see them. So I wanted them around me all the time. I didn't want them in another playroom. 3-year-old requires his dad requires, okay, well, I'm going to argue with that word. Commands that his dad sleep in bed every night. Otherwise, he wakes up upset and won't go back to sleep. Oh, God, who's in charge there? Check out my bedtime battles course, okay? But yeah, we all know who's the boss in that thing. He requires it. Yeah, good luck with that. Check out my bedtime battles course. I will take the device away from my 7-year-old son if he misbehaves. Scream. You're doing the negative deprivation with a 3-year-old and over. I start with a positive action consequence first. If they won't do that, then I do the negative deprivation. When you jump right to the negative deprivation, it's all negative. Whereas the positive action consequence is getting them to do a good deed when they've done something bad or whatever. So yeah, I don't like to do that negative one first. I like to start with the positive one. Check out the behavior board. It explains all that. And also the boot camp course, if they're 3 and above, it explains all that too. Anyway, Melbourne. I've never been to Melbourne. My kids were born in Sydney and Brisbane. And that's where I spent like 20 years. Not in both cities, but started in Sydney and then in Brisbane. So I'm half Aussie. I feel Aussie. It's funny, I never picked up the accent. I know all the slang. I could tell you funny stories about things I said wrong. Like, who knew that a rubber was an eraser? My boss asked me to get him some rubbers, and my Australian boss in Australia, can you please order some rubbers? I'm not sure that's in my job. I was so confused, but other people who knew that he meant erasers. Yeah, so that was one of my first incidents with the bit. Oh God, they love that. There was always something happening in that office. Okay. 8-year-old doesn't understand consequences of bad behavior. Well, you're not explaining it right. 8 years old? Unless they have some challenges, then they can certainly understand that. You mean they don't like it? There's a difference between understanding and not liking. So yeah, check out my boot camp course if you're interested. It sets you up as a leader. And you're on that behavior board too. It's funny, they always understand that you get punished too. But yeah, I'm challenging, unless he's got some challenge, that I'm challenging that he understands it, he just doesn't like it. And so you got to teach him how to be accountable. Florida, how can I help my 5-year-old talk without shaking her hands and her head? I don't understand. Is she arguing with you, or she's just talking like this? And I don't know what you mean by that. If she's arguing with you, that's in the attitude department, and I ignore that stuff. You never address attitude. Attitude is just a sign they don't respect you. So work on your leadership skills. That's all I teach here. Yes, that's right. Thank you. Right. What? I got to go back and see what I was right about now. Oh, I get dizzy when I go back. Device away from. Oh, okay. Whoops, I'm getting dizzy. I was scrolling too fast. I'm in my 60s. You get vertigo as you get older, your balance. That's why so many old people fall. It's not that they're weak. It's that we just can't hold our balance anymore. If I'm in the shower, I have to have my toes on a certain spot to close my eyes to wash my hair. Because if I'm standing without my feet anchoring me, knowing where I am, I'd fall right over. Isn't that weird? I'm 63. I didn't know that happened. Anyway, maybe it doesn't happen to everybody, but it happened to me. Just old people stuff. Okay. Okay. Yeah, you're not going to like my answer. I will take away the device from my 7-year-old if he misbehaves, and I would put it on top of the closet, and then he would use a chair to take it down. Go hide when he gets a chance and watch it. Okay, you got to work on your leadership skills. That would never in a million years happen if you were a leader. It just would never happen. So work on your leadership skills. He will respect you, and there's no way that would happen. So we're not fixing kids here. We're fixing and teaching parents. You got to work on your leadership skills. Check out my boot camp course. It teaches you how to do that in 5 weeks, how to set yourself up as a leader. It's all about you. You lead, they will follow. Their behavior is 100% a direct result of your parenting from the age of 3 to 12. That's why the course is set up that way. That's the height of your leadership skills, 3 years old to 12 years old. That's it. So yeah, their behavior is 100% a direct result of your parenting. He's doing that because he doesn't respect you. So yeah, work on your own leadership. That's what that's all about. And don't ask me how to do that. That's all I teach. People say, "Oh, how do I do that?" I can't answer that in one sentence. That's why I have a 5-week course on that. That's the boot camp course. It's a process. You got to learn how to set yourself up as a leader. Everything I teach adds to that. But as a package, if you really want to set yourself up as a leader, you can start with the behavior board. It's just a tiny part of it. But the boot camp is where you learn that. So, okay. My 4-year-old has slept through the night since 6 months old, but 2 months ago will not sleep unless we're in the room with him, wakes up, checking for other. Check out the bedtime battles course. It's a whole process how you keep them in bed. So check that out. And it's going to get ugly before it gets better. It will. It's usually one really bad night. I don't feel like telling all these stories all the time, but there's one story where they said it's never going to work. He's 6 years old. He's never slept through the night. They had one hell of a bad night, and he never got up again. Using my methods. Okay. Sibling bickering, 4 and 2 years old. Just separate them every time they bicker. Take the 4-year-old out of the room, or the 2-year-old. But yeah, if they're bickering. Do you have a toy rotation system going on? A lot of kids fight. A lot of them cause problems. A lot of them can't play alone just because they got too much overstimulation going on. They've got everything around. Have you got a chaotic household? Too much stuff around? So yeah, get a toy rotation system going and see if that helps. Also, the 4-year-old should be able to have their own toys that they don't have to share with the 2-year-old. So make sure the 4-year-old can go off, say, okay, I'll tell you what, why don't you just go and play in your room with such and such if you can't get along. So yeah, separating them is usually the best way, but get a toy rotation system going. They're less likely to be bored because they often fight just because they're bored. What to do to calm a 1-month-old who doesn't take a pacifier. They are all completely different. I've worked with so many newborns in hospitals and that. And some of them love to lay on their tummy across you like this. How did I used to do it? Oh, yeah, head there, legs there, and then just patting them on the bum, stuff like that. Some babies love that. It's kind of an awkward position to get into, but once you get good at that, you hang on to one of their legs and they're just hanging there. A lot of babies love that. A lot of them love to be held really tight. So, yeah. I don't know what to tell you. They're all different. I'll give you some visuals. I'll have a grandchild soon. My first one. I'll show you how you soothe a baby. I'll wrap them up too. A lot of them love being wrapped up. I couldn't do that with my kids. They were Australian summer babies. We lived in Queensland and Sydney and Queensland when they were born. And you can't wrap up an Australian summer baby. It's just stinking hot. Like I couldn't carry a hat. You don't see a lot of carriers there either because you can't carry a baby against you. It's too hot. Anyway, so I didn't get to experience all that. Okay. How can I stop my 9-year-old fighting with the others? Yeah, I don't know what they're fighting over, so it would help. But anyway, my general advice is this. You just separate them. You take one out of the room at a time, and it's not timeout because they're with you. That's removing. Removing is different than timeout. Timeout is when you send them in a corner by themselves. Removing them, you take them with you, and you go in the kitchen and say, okay, you can't get along. You stay with me for 5 minutes. Okay? And then put them in. Then the next time you bring another one out. So keep switching. You've got 3 kids. Take them all out one at a time. They'll usually get bored with fighting. It's a process. It doesn't happen overnight. If you really want my help with that, it helps me a great deal if I know exactly what's going on in your family. It might just be one session. So check out the link above. The link above has everything I have in my business. So you can just check that out if you're interested. Oh, in Jamaica, we call erasers rubbers as well. I got in a lot of trouble with not that one. That one was just funny. My coworkers loved it. They were always listening to me, hoping I'd mess up again. Oh no, I can't say that one. It's too rude. I used to teach aerobics and I was up on stage saying something, not realizing what, and the whole class was like this. I didn't know how rude it was. It's nothing like having a microphone and saying something completely repulsive, not knowing what you're saying. Yeah. Anyway, it's just part of moving to a new country. Okay. It could also be autism. What could be autism? By the way, I don't discuss autism on here. I only, I'm Scottish, so I get that story about the rubbers. Yeah, it's a good one. Yeah, I don't discuss autism on here. If you want me to help you with and work with you, if you have a child who has autism on the spectrum, you have to hire me. That's coaching. And it's not just one session. Because the first session, I have to assess what you've been doing, what has worked and what hasn't worked, and what support you have. Then we try, I throw a whole bunch of ideas at you. Then the next session, I see what stuck, what worked, what didn't. It's a lot of trial and error because they're all different. Autism, I can't generalize with that. Okay. Any reading or course material to prepare for future challenges? I don't know. You can just keep watching me, I guess, but I don't have any books or anything. I've never read a book on parenting or kids ever. All my stuff is experience-based with kids. So I've never, ever read a book on kids or anything. Well, why would I? I probably disagree with 100% of what's in there. I just probably, because kids taught me all this. So I can't recommend anybody. But if you want to look for a parenting book, you look at the author and there's 2 things. There's no way I would take parenting advice from someone without these 2 things. They have to have finished the job with their own kids. So they have to be parents. They have to have lived with teenagers. If they don't know how to live with teenagers, how can they tell you what to do in the earlier years? How do they know what's going to lead you into the teen years? A lot of what's taught these days is going to backfire down the road in the teen years. I just see it coming all the time. Anyway, so they have to have had experience finishing the job with their own kids. The next one is they have to have worked with hundreds of kids. How could they possibly talk about all this stuff if they haven't worked with all these kids? So they have to have those 2 criteria. If you're just taking advice from someone who has toddlers, it's like taking financial advice from someone with $10 in the bank. How do they know where they're going? It's a long road. And parenting is such a serious thing. There's no way I would take advice from someone who wasn't heavily experience-based. It is experience-based. It just is. Corrective behavior for 2-year-olds screaming when he doesn't get his way. Ignore. Just calmly walk away. Never look angry. Never give them a dirty look. Just sort of walk away like you didn't even notice what they were doing. They will learn, hey, this isn't working, so they're just going to stop doing it. It'll take a while though. It's not going to stop overnight. Okay, 3-year-old, it hits me hard. I don't know how to react. It's so painful and sometimes cry in front of him. I feel bad. Okay, he's hitting you. Check out my course. I have toddlers who hit. I know I always say 3 and over is not a toddler, but it fits in that course. Toddlers who hit. Yeah, and also put down no hitting. If you just want to go to the behavior board, that's free. And check and just put down no hitting in that behavior board. And if he does, there's a consequence. It explains it. That is the rule. That I think that in the behavior board, when you get it, that is the rule that's used. Because if you yell, your rule is always, you're on the behavior board too, by the way. Rules and consequences for everybody. If you yell, your rule is always no yelling. If your kids hit, their rule is always no hitting. And we never put attitude. We never put stop being snotty or don't use that tone. That's ridiculous. It's too broad. It's too general. It's too big of an ask. It's ridiculous. If they have attitude, it just means you're not a leader. So work on your leadership skills. Remember, we're never fixing kids here. We're fixing and teaching parents. How many toys in rotation? I don't know. I say put away about 95% of their toys. If they have 100 toys, put away 95 of them. But you leave out the big stuff. You leave out the books and anything that's comforting. Like you never put away a comforting plushie or something. So you always leave out Lego, leave out the big blocks, stuff like that, all the books. But it's all the other stuff. You know, the stuff that clutters up the whole house. And also, I'm a real fussy person. Like I'm more of a minimalist. And I had everything. I had open shelves in their room, like bookcases. So there was a spot for all the toys that they had out at any given time. So everything was very visual. I don't like big boxes where you throw everything in because they're just going to go throwing it all out again. And it's not teaching them how to respect things. So, but also, and I had a lot of activities going on in the house. So I'd say, okay, so you want to play Lego? Okay, let's put all your other stuff away first. Then you get out the Lego, and they would lay it out in the whole living room. And that would be like a whole week of nothing but Lego. And maybe we'd throw in some Play-Doh, like not with the Lego, but then we'd say, okay, well, let's do Play-Doh this afternoon. But once they stopped playing with that Lego, it had to be cleaned up. So, once they got bored with it, like if they wanted to set up another big thing, like maybe a car racetrack set or something, the Lego had to be put away first. They didn't think anything of it. Like that's how classrooms are run. They don't have tons of it. They don't throw everything in the middle of the class and say, have at it. They say, okay, let's pack up. We're going to go do this now. That's kind of how I ran my house. And the kids really were never bored because I always ran it like that. That's not true. They both, my son was, a funny story actually. My son was 5 years old and he'd been at a friend's house. He came home and I guess he'd seen this at the friend's house. He was about 5. He actually was probably younger because he wouldn't have said this at 5. Maybe he was, I don't know. But then I wouldn't probably let him to go to a friend's house at 4. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Around 5. So he comes home and this would have worked I guess he was testing it out on me. And he came home and he said, I'm bored, in that snotty tone. Like he'd never spoken to me like that before. He said, I'm bored. And he was looking at me and I turned around like this and he went, no, I'm not, because he knew I love this stuff, right? So I said, oh, my precious angel, are you bored? And he goes, no, I'm not. No, never mind, I'm not. So I said, oh, come with mommy. So I took him in the laundry room, filled up a bucket and gave him a mop. He was never bored again. The same thing happened with my daughter like 5 years later. She had been to a friend's house, come home, and she tried it out on me. I'm bored, because I guess they got cake or something at the other house. I don't know what happened. And then sure enough, my son started laughing right away. So yeah, they were never bored again. Funny thing about that, eh? Yeah, don't try and manipulate me, I'll tell you. I love that stuff. My son has heard me say F once or twice when I burn myself. I don't curse often, but now he's saying it. He's 4. How do I get him? Okay, say no. Say that was a bad word. I was bad for saying it, and he gets to punish you. You have to do something that he wants. It could be, I don't know, playing tag, playing hide and seek for a half hour. So you have to be accountable for that. Just saying you shouldn't say it, that's ridiculous. You got to be accountable. You got to make it up to him. So say, I was really bad for saying that. Now, if you ever say a bad word, there's going to be a consequence for you also. Okay? So set that up. Check out the behavior board and set it up that way. But first of all, say, I shouldn't have said that. You know what? I should be punished for that. What do you want to do? Do you want to go to the water slide park? Do you want to go take them somewhere fun as your apology and making amends for saying that bad word? You have to show them you're accountable. They're more likely to be accountable if you are. They're not listening to you, they're watching you. So if you're accountable, that's why you're on the behavior board. If you're accountable, then they're more likely to be accountable. Oh, my kids loved it when I messed up. I didn't swear, but if I'd mess up, I was running late or something. I hate it when people are late. So if I was ever kept them waiting or something, they would love that. And I'd go, oh, shoot, what do you want me to do? Like, what do you want? So they'd say, we'd love to go to the water slide park tomorrow. And I'd say, sure, I'll bring your suits after school. So I was very good at eating crow and making amends. You got to be. You got to show them how it's done, right? By the way, I'm getting pretty good now at answering your messages on here. But yeah, I've just kind of figured out the back end. I don't know what I'm doing on social media. I'm in my 60s. I'm going to clue what I'm doing here. So yeah, I just figured out how to answer messages just recently. So if you sent me an old message like months ago, I wouldn't have answered it. I just deleted them all because they're too old now. But yeah, I just figured that out. So it's not that I'm ignoring you. I just don't know what I'm doing. TikTok. Oh my God. I didn't know what I was doing. I had about, how many? About 300 message requests on there. I thought, oh, geez, I'm just deleting all the old ones because I didn't know that you could do messages on here. It's kind of embarrassing. No, I'm not embarrassed. I'm old. What do I care? I don't understand all this stuff. But now I'm learning. So I will be answering your messages. Not right away, probably. Every couple of days I do it usually. Okay. What if the child does not do what they're supposed to do in spite of several warnings and consequences? You don't do several warnings. That's why they're not listening to you, because you sound weak when you have to. And I told you, you shouldn't have done that. And yeah, that's why they're not listening to you. Check out my behavior board. And also, if you want the boot camp course, it teaches you how to be a leader. Yeah, I only mentioned things once. I never repeat myself. So yeah, you're just kind of scrambling. Yeah, and they pick up on that. You're okay, and you're gonna do that, and yeah, that's what's happening. So work on your leadership skills. I would never repeat myself, although I just did because I already said that. But anyway, picky eaters. I don't talk about nutrition because I'm not a nutritionist or anything, but I'll tell you what I do with my kids, okay? Probably won't like it. It's radical. I'm really into healthy food, and I never had any garbage in the house at all, like no ice cream, nothing in the house like that. And so my kids knew they get this healthy food or that healthy food, and I made everything from scratch. So they didn't know any different. The first time my son went out and had bought pizza, he came home and said, their pizza sauce was really weird. It was red. Well, mine was always brown because I pureed spinach into it. I hid all sorts of stuff. I could hide spinach or wheat germ or flaxseed in anything. I could puree up all these fruits and vegetables. The kids had no clue what they were eating. I made all my own bread. That was full of everything. I hardly ever used sugar. I used applesauce to sweeten stuff a lot of the time. But yeah, so they just grew up with really healthy food. So there was no problem. They were picky eaters, but all they had was healthy food. So they knew there was no point holding out because there was no ice cream or potato chips in the house. This grandma appreciates you. Well, I'm almost a grandma. I'll be a grandma in about 6 weeks. So. Okay. Teenagers are my favorite age. I started my business working with teen crisis work. And not that you're in crisis, but I love teenagers. So I love this question. My son is 14 and suddenly he started to do everything slow, right? He's driving me crazy. Mm-hmm. I have been dealing with this behavior for a year now. Any help, please? Yes and no. I'm going to tell you, it'll sort of answer it. I have to give you a general answer. Okay, this is my 3 top tips for parenting teenagers. Number 1 is you listen to understand and show empathy. You do not listen to gather information to lecture with. If they want your advice, they'll ask for it, and they already know it anyway. So listen, I call it silent listening. You listen, then you shut up. It was very hard for me to do. I'm a talker. But anyway, I got good at it working with other kids, and then by the time I had my own, I kind of had it mastered. Number 2 is negotiate pretty much everything. Hey, I want your dirty clothes in the hamper from now on. Put a time on it, too. If he's really slow, say by 10 a.m. I want all the dirty clothes in the hamper, whatever. And then you say, what do you want from me? So you negotiate pretty much everything. And number 3 is don't sweat the small stuff. That's the small stuff, okay? And then what might help is put a time limit on stuff. Don't sweat the small stuff. Save your energy for the big stuff, because if you do have big stuff, you're going to need your energy. So yeah, if you're a micromanager and you're always telling them what to do, they're not going to listen to you no matter what. So yeah, don't sweat the small stuff. And that is kind of small stuff. But yeah, and if you want my help, if you're really struggling, you have to hire me. Teenage stuff, it's coaching. What's an example of a consequence for a 3-year-old? Might just be emptying the dishwasher or helping you clear the dinner table. making your bed, helping with the laundry. It's usually helping with a chore. And then parents say, but they love doing chores. They're still doing a good deed. And they have to do a pretty good job trying. They don't have to do a great job, but they have to try and put a time limit on it. So there's still a few things they might mess up with. They usually like it the first time, not so much the second or third or fourth time. So yeah, it's usually, that's how you start. If they won't do it, then you resort to the negative deprivation. You say, okay, fine, media blackout for 24 hours or whatever. Take a favorite toy away for 24 hours, something like that. Well, you see, you're asking me how to handle other adults, and this is kind of unfair. You're living with your in-laws and you try and ignore tantrums, but they don't. If you can't handle them and say, look, don't undermine my parenting, please, it makes me feel bad. Lead with your feelings. Makes me feel like a bad mom, okay? If they don't respect that, I can't help you. Like, you know what I mean? I teach parent-child relationships, not adult in-law relationships. It comes up a lot in coaching, by the way. But yeah, lead with your feelings. And if they're not going to respect that, I can't help you. You know, especially if you're living with them, like it's kind of, they kind of got you by the knackers in a way. Up and ask, what's the matter? Don't know what that's about. So she gets met with sympathy for her tantrum. And I feel, oh yeah. Like I said, if they don't respect your feelings, there's nothing I can help you with. Oh gosh, good question. I'm watching you in our living room and my partner saw and said, no, that's not it. Oh, Jordan Peterson. I often talk about him. It's a love-hate relationship with him. He's got a lot of good information, but he depresses the heck out of me. He's a smart guy, but I find him very depressing. You know what I love watching with him? Him handling people. Don't ever try and debate him. He's so much smarter than anybody. So yeah, but it's a love-hate relationship. But anyway, I'll answer that in a sec. Okay. 3.5-year-old, if you do a 24-hour blackout, this is such a good question. Do I continue to remind him the next day, etc., of what he did wrong and why he cannot use the iPad? That is just borderline mean. No way would I do that. That's awful. No, it's like rubbing it in. I'm going to be moving over to TikTok now, and then I'm going to tell the pool story, and it will explain why you never do that. It's really important not to do that. That is, yeah, it's mean. I would never do that. They've already been punished. You already took the iPad away. Now you're going to keep, you shouldn't have done that. It's mean. Yeah, don't do that. Anyway, I wish I could hold my emotions when I'm talking. Sorry about that. I didn't mean to be so mean to you, but it just is mean. Okay, I'm going to move over to TikTok now. If you want to join me over there, it's Bratbusters Parenting. So thanks for joining me. And I'm still on YouTube. Okay, Instagram, TikTok. Oh, sugar. I have a personal TikTok. I've done that before. I wound up on the wrong one. And they're going, what are you talking about? I'm like, I don't know. Okay, just waiting. Pool story, I'm going to tell. Notifying viewers that you're live. Okay, hello. I just finished up on Instagram, so if you're coming over from there, you already know what I'm going to start with in this session. Just waiting for people to turn up. Hobo Joe. While we're waiting for people to turn up, I'd love to know where you're from and how old your kids are. I usually wait till I get maybe 50 to 100 people in the room. Hello, Taylor. You're here almost every time. I can't see. If I got a white top on, yeah. Every time sugar. Why do I do this to myself? That's better. I can see. Okay. I might have to hold that up so I can read. Okay, I'm just waiting for people to turn up while we're waiting. Where are you from and how old are your kids? If you're joining me from Instagram, I just finished my live over there and now I'm transferred over here. You know what I'm going to start with? I'm going to start with the pool story and then I'll explain why once I get going. I'm just waiting for people to turn up. So where are you from and how old are your kids? So I'm just reading your handles there, your names. Okay. Oh, you got the same name as me. I'll bet I've had it longer. Okay. So okay. Why did you put 53? Are you telling me your age? 2 children, girl, 30. Oh, goodness. 53, 2 children, girl 33, passed at 26. You're 53, so you've got girl 33 past. I don't understand that. I don't understand that. Sorry, I'm not following. I feel like I should be sensitive to that. Did someone die? But I don't quite know what you mean. Okay, son 14. My daughter passed away. I'm so sorry. I've never lost a child. I am pretty guaranteed that would be the worst thing in the world. So yeah, I'm really sorry about that. And I don't think that's something that you ever get over. I think that's something you just have to learn. Oh, would be 33. So sorry about that. I think that's something you just have to learn to live with, isn't it? Can't. How can you ever get over that? It's so wrong. It's just so wrong. Yeah, so sorry about that. Okay, we've got enough people to get going now. And if you've come over from Instagram, you know I'm going to start with the pool story. The reason is someone asked me a question on Instagram. I just finished my live there. And they said, now my son has, and he was young, I think he was, I don't know, 3 or 4, and he had 24-hour media blackout as a punishment. And then they said, should we remind him of why he's got media blackout? And I said, no, never. I think that's mean. The reason is, and I'll tell you in the pool story, okay? It explains that. You've probably heard it a million times, but it's really pertinent to this question, is why you don't remind them of why they're being punished. It's very important because discipline is a tiny little part of it, and then you want to bond with them. Okay, discipline, get it over with, and then don't talk about it again. And then just bond with them. It's like when they've got 24-hour media blackout, you're doing it with them, and all you're doing is saying, oh, do you want to play a game? No, I hate you, I hate you. Okay, never mind. Then when they calm down, you want to go to the park? You're always trying to bond and connect with them, okay? So anyway, the pool story is this. It's a true story. My son had his 8th birthday party, and we had a pool in the backyard, so it was a pool party. So it was just me alone, and I was watching 6 8-year-old boys in the pool. And so it was a big responsibility. So all I'm doing is counting heads. I'm a real safety freak. So all I'm doing is counting heads the whole time, right? So I said, okay, Whaley, this giant blow-up toy, I said, Whaley is way over there because we didn't have a foot pump. We had to blow it up with our mouths. There was no way I was going to let the air out of Whaley. So I just put him way off to the side, and I said, Whaley cannot go in the pool because he's too big. I can't see behind him. I could lose 3 kids in the pool behind me. 3 kids could die behind Whaley. So I said, he can't go in the pool. Sure enough, one of the kids brought Whaley in the pool. So I said to him, Whaley, out of the pool now. He said to me, no. My son went like this instantly. I was in the pool fully clothed, and I had that kid out sitting beside me before he even knew what happened. And my son got Whaley out of the pool. So anyway, now I'm counting 5 heads, and I'm saying to this kid, you're going to sit there for 10 minutes now. In those 10 minutes, all I did was talk to him about soccer. I'd seen him in a soccer. I used to work with him at school. I saw him in a soccer game. He got a goal, and I'm talking about, really good. You played really well, and I'm building him up, you see. And then I said, oh, and you did really well in the test. I worked with him on a test earlier. And then I said, what PlayStation games do you like? And I'm bonding with him. I'm connecting. And then 10 minutes is up, and I said, okay, go back in the pool. Have fun. Couldn't get rid of him. He just talked and talked and talked. Oh, I couldn't get rid of this kid. He was all over me, chatting, like we were best friends at this point. I kept looking at my son like, help. Anyway, finally my son said, we're going to have a basketball game. We had these hoops in the pool. So finally he went back in the pool like, phew. Anyway, the rest of the afternoon, and this kid was a handful. But anyway, the rest of the afternoon, he was good as gold. Lisa, can I help you with this? Can I help you with that? I'm like, oh, God. Oh, geez, it was awful. But anyway, now I'm going to dissect exactly what happened there. I was very clear when they first arrived about my instructions and why. Whaley cannot go in the pool because 3 kids could die behind him. They were 8 years old enough to understand that. And I don't always like to prevent stuff from happening. Sometimes I like them to be able to push me and see who's in charge, right? So anyway, I didn't bother putting him. I could have put him outside the gated area, but I didn't. Anyway, Whaley. So then when they brought him in the pool, I didn't say, can you please take Whaley out of the pool because he can, blah. I didn't go on about it. I'd already made it very clear. This was a safety issue. I said, Whaley out of the pool now. Very seriously. It was like a command at this point because it's a safety issue. When he said no to me, I took action instantly. I got him out of the pool. I sat him down beside me, soaking wet, and I was very clear. You'll sit with me for 10 minutes. Why did I not say, because you brought Whaley in the pool? He's not stupid. He knows why he's sitting there. Also, while he's sitting there, I would never talk to him about what he did wrong. Why would I do that? He's already been punished. I'm not going to humiliate him in front of his friends. I'm building him up. I'm making him feel good about himself. He felt like crap because I had to pull him out of the pool. Now I'm building him up. He's liking himself. He's feeling good about himself. His self-esteem is going up because I'm doing that for him. By the way, now all of a sudden I'm a leader. All of a sudden, when you're the source of that, them feeling good about themselves, they will bend over backwards trying to please you. I think I overshot the mark. That's why I couldn't get rid of him. Anyway, then when I said, okay, 10 minutes is up, you can go back in the pool. Why would I not say, don't take Whaley in the pool again? I would have reminded him about that rotten thing he did. I would have erased all that good work I just did. I just built him up. Now I'm going to knock him down again. Like, that's mean, right? So anyway, then I said, go back, have fun, have fun. You put your energy where you want it to go. So I want him to have fun. I want him to have fun and be good. So that's all I'm focused on is having fun and being a good kid. I'm treating him like he's a good kid now, right? So anyway, I couldn't get rid of him. Then the rest of the afternoon, he was all over me. Anyway, his mom came to pick him up, and she sent him to my place without his medication. I'm not pro or anti-medication, but she gave him a pill before she even took him home. But she sent him to my place without, I could tell whenever he didn't have his pills because it was a vast difference. He had ADHD and some other stuff. He was a cocktail. Anyway, so she gave him a pill before she even took him home. And then she said to him as soon as she saw him, she goes, were you rotten as usual? Not awful. Not awful. Anyway, this poor kid. So that's why you don't remind them of what they did wrong. You deal with the bad behavior, get the discipline out of the way, done. And then you're just focusing on bonding with them, connecting with them, and building them up, making them like themselves, making them feel good about themselves. Give them a sense of pride. When they have pride and they like themselves, they're not going to act out. They'll be all over you trying to please you. That's gold. That's just gold. Anyway, that's the pool story. That's my favorite story. I got a whole bunch of stories, but it's not my favorite story. It's the favorite story that I tell. There's better stories out there. Okay, does that make perfect sense? Does that make sense to everybody? I've told it a million times, but does that make sense? Why you don't remind them? Why you don't keep rubbing salt in the wound? I try so hard to do this. Sometimes my emotions get the best of me. That is your challenge. You're the adult. You have to set the leader example. Hear that siren? Weird. It's a weird siren. You have to set the example. So yeah, that is your challenge. By the way, once you get good at this, it gets easy. Like if a kid ever challenges me, I'm like, bring it on. I was almost glad when he brought Whaley in the pool because it's my opportunity to show all the kids, I know I'm a leader. I know what I'm doing, right? So I actually kind of embrace that. That's why I've worked with so many difficult kids. I know how to get respect. I know how to get the best out of them. That's what a leader does. A leader doesn't remind them about how bad. It's not focusing on what they do bad. Believe me, they do a lot of that. But it's finding as much good as possible and just putting your energy into that. Focusing on the good kid. You deal with the bad behavior, get it over and done with, no emotions, like a business transaction. And then it's all emotions, all fun, all lovey-dovey. I gave him a hug, like all lovey-dovey the rest of the time. Build them up, make them feel good about themselves. You got a 3-year-old who refuses to listen to you, that's on you. You got to work on your leadership skills. If you were a leader, they listen. They just do. They follow the leader. Children need, crave, and want a leader. If you don't do that for them, they're going to be very susceptible out there in the world. They're going to be very vulnerable to peer pressure, bullies, the drug dealer on the corner, the internet, the Kardashians. They're going to go searching out a leader elsewhere. But if they have a leader at home, they're not the least bit vulnerable or susceptible right through the teen years. They'll tell you everything when they're teenagers. If you're a good leader, they'll tell you everything because you're a safe place to land. You don't judge. You listen to understand. You're there for them. You're a safe place to land. That's what a leader does. It gives them a sense of security and safety and pride in themselves. So they don't tend to do bad stuff. They just don't. I remember my son told me, he said, one of my classmates asked me, would you ever break the law? And he says, are you kidding me? I'd be terrified my mom would get to me before the police would. He'd be so humiliated to face me if he'd done anything like that because he respected me. So yeah, that's why when you're a leader, you don't have to discipline. They're self-disciplining. You got to work for that though. You got to earn that. It's not handed to you on a silver platter. You got to earn that. You got to earn that leadership role. You got to prove it. You got to work for it. That's all I teach here. I teach leadership. That's all I teach. It shifts and changes a lot in the teen years, by the way. I started my business dealing with teen crisis work because teens are my favorite age. I love teenagers. Once you know how to get respect with a teenager, piece of cake, they're easy. But if you don't know how to get respect, it can tank big time. Here's my top 3 tips for parenting teenagers. You listen to understand and get and show empathy. And you don't listen to gather information to lecture with. If they want your advice, they'll ask for it. They already know it anyway. Okay, so you listen to understand and show empathy. And then the second tip is you negotiate pretty much everything. Hey, I want your dirty clothes in the hamper from now on. What do you want from me? And number 3 is you don't sweat the small stuff. Save your energy for the big stuff, because if you do have big stuff, you're going to need that energy. If you're always micromanaging everything, you're whitewashed out. They're not going to listen to anything. So yeah, don't sweat the small stuff with teenagers. When do you give a toy back after corrective action? When it's done. Like, what I mean is, once everything's settled down. If they're still screaming for it, you don't give it back. But once they've sort of forgotten about it, then you can give it back. So it's different. It might be 2 hours that they're still asking for it and still crying for it. But yeah, when it's done, when they've calmed down and they've accepted the fact that you're the leader, they're not getting it back until they've calmed down. Remember, you ignore the crazy and you reward the calm. How to deal with a 2-year-old whining and crying without yelling at them after being nice. I don't know what you mean. Why do you give any attention to whining and crying? And why are they whining and crying a lot? Are they doing it just because they're not getting their own way? I don't know why. I need to know a context around that. Why are they whining and crying? Did they just not get their own way? Or if they do that all the time, then you've got bigger fish to fry. But if it's just because they didn't get their own way, then just ignore it. It's like, whatever. At what age do we start discipline? 50, you got a 15-month-old. I would do that with a baby. But here's how it's done. Let's say a baby starts to hit you or something. You just take their hands and you say no, like really gently. You're just starting to teach them that there are things that they shouldn't do. That's all. But you never discipline a baby to make them cry. Like you never go no, you never yell. You just go no, and you're just starting to teach them there are things they should not be doing. And they're going to keep doing it for a while. That's okay. But by 16 months, that's when it really kicks in. I think they're kind of babies up to 15 months. But at 16 months, that's when you start doing the more consistent corrective actions. So you say no, and you might put them down now, okay? Because if they hit no, and then you put them down. At this, you don't throw them down like I just did. Yeah, there you go. You just say no, and then you put them down. Just kind of wander away and do your chores or whatever. Don't look like you're running away from them. Just kind of meander around. But yeah, 16 months is when it kind of kicks in. Then at the age of 3, you can start to use the behavior board, because that's when they can stop before they act. They can actually reason, and they can stop and think, oh, maybe I shouldn't do that because there's a consequence on that behavior board. Under the age of 3, no, it's right in the moment, consistent corrective action. And it doesn't just stop at 2 years and 11 months. There's sort of a little bit of a gray area in there, but by 3, they can learn to stop and think before they act. They're not just driven by impulse like a toddler is. A toddler is just driven by impulse. Looks good, I grab it. They don't think before they act usually. Whenever I tell my 3-year-old to do something, she starts off with no. Well, I need context. What exactly are you trying to get her to do? Just make it happen. So if you want her to get, okay, let's get your shoes on. No, because you're going out the door, pick her up, pick up her shoes, put her in the car seat, then put her shoes on. Or put them on the floor until she's calmed down. Then when you get where you are, make it happen, take action after that. So yeah. Like, okay, hand that over to me. You shouldn't have it. No, I would go over and get it. Like I wouldn't say it twice. I never repeat myself with kids. I say it once and then I take action. 2-year-old is throwing toys, just take the toy away. Just say one word, say no, and you put it away. Just say one word, and then just forget it. It's in the moment, it's fast. It's got to be right in the moment. Say no, put it away, and then just go back to whatever you were doing as if it didn't even happen. Next time they do it, no, put it away. How do you handle angry outbursts? 4 years old. By 4 years old, that sort of shouldn't be happening very often. If you're a leader, it tends to calm their emotions. They don't tend to have angry outbursts at 4 if you're a leader. So work on your leadership skills. Check out my boot camp course. That's in everything I have in my business is in the link above. So check that out. It teaches you how to be a leader. They're foster children. Well, I learned all this stuff when I was working with kids. And so I didn't learn much with my own kids because I kind of got respect when they were little and then just kind of sailed right through. So the teen years. But yeah, I worked with kids. That's where I learned all this. And that pool story, that wasn't my kid I was dealing with. So it works with any kid, how to be a leader. It works with any kid. I learned a lot when I was babysitting. I started babysitting at 11 years old. I was like Mother Earth. I was very mature for my age. So I was babysitting at 11. And I was very good at getting respect from kids who were really a handful. And but yeah, leadership it works with all kids. Okay. Oh, I love this one. Because there's such an easy answer to this. How do you handle the "that's not fair" response from your child, 7 years old? I would go like this, whatever, and then just never, I would never answer that again. Or if they really push it, yeah, but I forgot, I didn't know, blah, blah, and they go on, I'd say, well, you'll know next time, won't you? This kid's 7, they can understand it. You'll know next time, won't you? Just like you, whatever. So yeah, and if they keep coming at you, that's on them. Has nothing to do with you. That's on them. That's their process. Okay. Okay, here we go. My daughter didn't have outbursts until the age of 4 when divorce began. Would behavior board help? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know what's going on there. Do you guys fight? Like we divorced, but we never fought. So the kids never saw anything like that. Like, and we still went everywhere together with the kids. Like whenever they had anything at school, we still went together. So we were still a united front. So it depends. If there's animosity, they're reacting to that. It scares the bejeebies out of them, and they often do act out. Anger is often fear-based. So yeah, if you want my help with that, that might be coaching, one-on-one with me, because I'd have to assess the situation and figure out why they're having these outbursts. But yeah, if you are angry at your spouse, at your ex, and you guys are arguing in front of the kids, that would cause that. What do you do about wanting to get what they want? Well, you've already answered that. It means it's worked in the past. So yeah, don't feed it. You've trained them. Whining is a trained behavior. It's like you've trained a seal to do that. Like it's a learned behavior because it's worked in the past. If whining never worked past the age of 3.5 to 4, they only do what works. So yeah, and even younger, really, like with whining, if it never works, they wouldn't do it. There's no payoff for it. They don't get any attention. Like if a kid, I hate whining. I can't stand it. Give me a tantrum any day over a whine. I hate whining. But yeah, kids I just completely ignore it. They don't get anything if they whine. Nothing. You can tell them, you can ask nicely, but I don't want to hear it like this. I want that. If I hear that, you get nothing. So, and they learn. It means you've taught them that. I have a 31-month-old toddler who won't listen to me when it's time for bathing, brushing teeth, etc. Yeah, who won't listen to me when it's it. Just make it happen. You got to. It's like people say, well, what do I do if they're fighting me on the change table? They're little. My kids. The reason I know this works is my kids knew when I said something's going to happen, it's going to happen. That's why they didn't fight me. So, and I was willing to wrestle to get it done. Like there was no ifs, ands, and buts. So was their dad would be more likely to say, okay, how about if we do this first and then you do that? He was negotiating with a 2-year-old. And that's why he took a lot more, they pushed him more than me. Whereas I just said, it's bath time, you're getting in the tub. Okay, because they knew they were going in no matter what. I just made it happen. It could have been an ugly scene, but I made sure it happened. It usually was only one scene. My son was the one who would have pushed. He had the temper. He was the one who had tantrums. So, but yeah, he might have pushed, but he would only do that once with me. Whereas his dad, he'd probably push a lot more. My ex-husband was the pleaser and I was the leader. It's usually the way it goes. There's nothing wrong with that. As long as you back each other up, there's nothing, they don't need 2 leaders. They only need 1. So, and then as the kids got older, they never pushed him around either because he would just say, do you want me to tell mom? And they'd go, no, never mind. So they only need 1 leader. But yeah, you just got to make it happen. So what if they don't like it? Make it happen. There's a few other things we can do, but basically I just followed through and made it work. I'm the negotiator at home. My husband is the leader. Yeah, with teenagers, you negotiate. Not everything, though. Like, yeah, okay, sure, you can have a party with drugs and everything. What you don't negotiate everything, but you negotiate a lot with teenagers. But you don't negotiate with a little one. You just don't. Yes, you're live. I need help. Oh, yes, you're live. Oh, I see. I need help. Yeah. Okay, 3-year-old spits. I would put no spitting on the behavior board. 3 years old, put down no spitting. And every time he spits, there's a consequence. So yeah, I would put that because that's not attitude. That's an actual action. You only put stuff like actions on there. You don't put attitude. And you can put bad words like swearing. You can put no bad words, no spitting, no hitting, stuff like that. You can put on the behavior board and address it every single time. 3.5-year-old, if they whine that ask correctly, do you give them what they asked for? I would, okay, 3.5. Oh, 3.5. If they whine, say, You whine for that, you're not getting it. Once they understand what you want from them, you want them to ask nicely, but they whine instead. You whine for that. I'll tell you what, if you'd asked nicely, you might have got it. But you got to be careful with that, because if they ask nicely, they can't get everything they want anyway. Say, you know what? If you'd asked me nicely, I probably would have given it to you this time. But you whine, so now you're not getting it. Take the hard line. It's only one bad situation. Never be afraid of a scene. Never be afraid of upsetting them because they don't get what they want when they want and how they want it. The scene is their lesson. That's how they process not getting everything they want. It's important. You know, I've worked with kids who threaten me with scenes. If you don't give me that, I'm going to have a fit. And then this is me. Bring it on. Like, there's no way they could manipulate me and threaten me like that. Bring it on. A scene is my opportunity to exercise my leadership. I love it. That is my opportunity. Don't be afraid of it. A scene, a fit, or a tantrum. That is your opportunity to exercise your leadership. Show them that they can't manipulate you with that. Where can I find the behavior board? The behavior board, a lot of people have problems with it. I subscribe, but I didn't get it. It's just 2 attachments at the bottom of the confirmation email that you get when you subscribe to the newsletter. It's all explained in there. I know it works because more people get it than don't. But a lot of people don't. They say, I didn't get that newsletter. Just look down at the bottom of the newsletter. The behavior board is an attachment at the bottom of the confirmation email. So it's on the link above, and it's the first thing you'll see on that link. It's the newsletter with the behavior board attached. How do I get my 2-year-old to stop throwing food? If they're throwing food, by the way, they should be in a high chair. There's no way I'd give a child food walking around the house. I just wouldn't live like that. But anyway, so they're sitting in a high chair, they throw food, say, fine, throw it in the garbage, and then hand feed them for the rest of that sitting. There's no way they would touch food with their hands after that, not in that sitting. They might not eat that meal. That's okay. An hour later, they can have a healthy snack. But yeah, so, and then if they throw toys, say, fine, okay, and then put it away. Every time they throw, put it away. So yeah, they eventually learn, but they're going to have a fit initially. Never be afraid of that. That's the process. This is what really messes parents up. Yeah, but then they're going to have a fit. Exactly. That's what you want. You want that. That's their process. That's how they learn. I didn't get what I want. I'm going to throw a fit because in the past, I got what I wanted by doing it. So, yeah. How do I get my 2-year-old to listen? You don't really. Or minimize tantrums. The way you minimize a tantrum is you ignore it. Completely ignore a tantrum. I actually have a course on tantrum busting. If you're interested, that's for toddlers. I talk about ignoring tantrums a lot. When we're done with this live, you might want to check into that. Look on Bratbusters, tantrums. Tons of videos will come up about that. Why it's important to ignore a tantrum. I don't feel like telling the swing story, but it shows what you do with a tantrum and what you don't do. There's me and this other mother. We both handled tantrums with our boys at the same time, completely different ways. Hers was a disaster, and my kid got over it really quickly. How much are the courses? There's 4 toddler courses. They're $29 each, and then the boot camp is $197. And then coaching has different levels depending on how many you want to buy. 22-month-old suddenly hitting. Yeah, they're going to try stuff. They don't all do it. There's 4 different things they're either born to do or they will never do. Okay, there's 4 of them. You're either born with these traits or you're not. My kids only had one, and it was my son. He did tantrums. The rest of them, they never had them. One is tantrums. They're either going to have them or they never will. I never had one. My daughter never had one. Anyway, climbing is another one. They're either going to climb or they never will. You know what I mean, the dangerous climbing. The other one is aggressiveness. They're either going to hit or they're not. Some kids will never hit. My kids never did. Some kids will hit, okay? Or they'll be runners. Those are 4 things. You know, they take off. They don't look behind to see where you are. They just take off and run in front of a bus. They have no fear. So those are the 4 traits they're either born to do or not. So yeah, if they start suddenly hitting, you just say consistent corrective action. You say no. And then if they hit with a toy, you put that toy away, or you just say no, take their hand and sort of gently push them away and then just wander away calmly. No anger. One word, no. There's no point going on any more than that. Those mini therapy sessions, God, I hate those things. I know they're trendy. I get it. They're trendy. They were just invented to make the mom feel good about herself. Has nothing to do with the toddler. 0. They're just garbage. You know, you shouldn't hit. It hurts people's feelings. That they're not listening to you. It's all about consistent corrective actions. It's not about this mini therapy sessions. I know they're trendy. Like I said, they were invented to make the mom feel good about herself. They are not for the child. They are for the mother. They're useless. They're just garbage. Not that I have an opinion. It's just that's what I battle all the time. Whenever people start hire me for coaching, I have to erase all that damage that was done. It's frustrating because it's so trendy because it is feeding the mom. I'm telling you stuff you don't probably want to do, but it works. That stuff makes you feel good about yourself, but it doesn't work. So can I still become a leader? It's that achievable when I feel like I don't know how to become one. Well, you don't know how to become one if you haven't gone through training. Check out the boot camp course. I was working with this one month. I had the most interesting client. I think it was this year. I can't remember. Anyway, I think she had 3 or 5 sessions. I can't remember what. Anyway, she had young kids. And most people ask a lot of questions. And I usually interrupt at some point. And I say, I said, let's just go through. You just listen to what I'm telling you. Go through the steps. Do what I tell you. And then if you still have those questions, then I'll answer them. But often through the process of teaching you how to be a leader, the questions disappear because I'm teaching you what to do instead of what not to do. Anyway, so she was interesting. She never asked me one question, and all she kept doing, this is her. We do it on Zoom, right? This was her. I'd be talking, and then she'd go like this. And then she'd look up again. Never said a word. It was weird. It was making me almost uncomfortable because I thought, what am I? Have I got a booger stuck on my face or something? It was making me kind of awkward. But anyway, I don't know why I didn't ask her. Normally I would confront someone, say, come on, do you have any questions? Don't waste your money if you have questions. I just thought, isn't that funny? So I let it go. The next session, the same thing. Exact same thing. She never talked. She just kept looking down like that. And then the third session, she turned up and she looked right at me and she had a huge smile on her face. And I said, what's going on? She goes, it's working. And I said, what do you mean? She never asked me anything. I didn't think she was paying attention. She goes, yeah. She goes, this is what I was doing. She had a huge notebook she'd written down everything I said, and she just did it. She never asked a question. She never questioned it. She just did it. She goes, I wrote down, and she was very fast at writing. And she told me stuff I don't even remember I'd said. Like she'd written down pretty much everything I'd said, and she just did it, and it worked. So don't question all this stuff. Give it a go. Give it 3 weeks. See if it works. Check out the behavior board. Give it 3 weeks. The boot camp, that's 5 weeks. It works. But don't question it, and don't mix it with other methods too. If you were to throw, I hate timeout. If you were to throw timeout into my process, my methods, it would tank because I hate timeout. I think it's mean. And I teach respect, how to treat kids with kindness, not with timeouts, which I think are horrible. So yeah, just stuff like that. It's like dieting. You can't pick and choose what you like from different diets. You can't pick and choose what you like from different parenting experts. You got to pick a path and go with it. Give it 3 weeks, 5 weeks. If it doesn't work for you, go, gee, she was stupid, and move on to someone else. But don't mix up our methods. They don't work. Okay? I don't know what other people are teaching. I am very careful about that. I stay in my own lane because why would I look at what other people are teaching? It means nothing to me. Like I only teach through my own experience with kids. So, and I know what works. But I do know, the only reason I know what's out there is because when people hire me, they tell me what they've been doing. But I don't like to go into that too much. I'm very careful with that. Because I'm not going to critique other people. Why would I do that? It would be like going on someone else's channel and insulting them. Like I just couldn't do that. Yeah, anyone can become a leader. If that woman did, you know what she said to me? I said, I told her, I said, I've never had anyone like you. And she goes, yeah, she goes, I'm a follower. She said, I take directions really well. Isn't that interesting? Because she was an interesting client. I loved her. Well, because she got such great results. It was wonderful. And plus, I love it when people question me and challenge me. I love that. But it was interesting to see. She's the only client I've ever had that never asked any questions. I've never had that before. In 17 years, I've never had that. Anyway. Okay. I teach pre-K and I felt like I had all the tools, but my child is different from anything I've ever seen. Okay. A lot of my clients, a huge portion of my clients, about 40% are teachers, principals, child psychologists, a lot of people with child development degrees. I couldn't do their jobs, and parenting they often struggle with. They try to overlap and use the skills they have in those jobs, which I think are wonderful, but I couldn't do them. That they don't always transfer over to parenting. You know why? Parenting's personal. It's different than any other relationship. It's completely different. So yeah, a lot of skills can transfer over, but a lot can't. So that's and plus it's not that they're struggling more than anybody else. It's that they're learners. They want to get it right. So yeah. Oh, someone's yelling out there. I live downtown. No, I don't. Oh, okay. I do have a list of doing this. Someone said, do you have I have top tips for toddlers, toddlers, top tips for toddlers and top tips for teenagers, but I don't have any for in between. That's the 3 to 12-year-old. That's the boot camp course, but I don't have top tips. You're in full leadership mode. That's when you are a leader. I would say just use the behavior board, be accountable. But I would say the number one parenting skill with all ages over the age of 3 is listening. Get really good at listening so they'll tell you everything. That was my superpower. Actually, my superpower was humor. I was fun and I was funny. I was fun with young children and I was funny with teenagers. And I used humor. That was my leverage. That's how I got close to kids. I was using humor. So be fun with kids. You don't have to be funny or fun all the time, but I mean, it's a really good tool to have as a parent, is to be fun, be engaging. Anyway, I've been on here for an hour now. I'll answer one more question. Okay. You say timeouts are degrading and embarrassing the child, but shouldn't it? Just like jail for an adult? Well, adults and children are different. You think I'm the same way with adults that I am with kids? I'm nurturing children. I'm building them up. If an adult's a jerk, I'd throw him in jail. Who cares? He's responsible for himself. Kids aren't. I feel very maternal and responsible for children. They're learning. They're growing. Once they're an adult, they're on their own. Yeah. They don't need a leader. They should be their own leaders, you know? So yeah, you can't compare adults and children. Yeah, they're different. We're guiding children. We're not guiding other adults. I hate this saying, teach people how to treat you. I think that is the most ignorant saying I've ever heard with adults. You've got to teach people how to treat you. Are you kidding me? I have to fix other adults? If you don't come to me fully formed and nice and respectful, I'm tossing you out of my life. I'm getting rid of it. Why would I? It's not my job to teach you how to treat me. How stupid is that? Is that the dumbest thing you ever heard of? I don't know who came up with that. You got to teach people how to treat you. No, you don't. Not adult. No. That's ridiculous. Ridiculous. Do you agree with that? What do you think of that? You got to teach people how. So if they beat you up, that's your fault because you didn't teach them how to treat you. They're responsible for how they treat you. I'm not responsible for that. Yeah, it doesn't make any sense at all to me. A lot of things get on my nerves. That's one of them. Anyway, okay. Yeah, I agree. Yeah. I interpret that as being clear about your boundaries. I do not set boundaries with people. If I need to set boundaries, you're out of my life. Why would I need to set boundaries? I'm not telling people how to be. If we're not compatible the way they are, at this age, I've learned I don't try and change people is what I'm saying. I don't try and change adults at all. That's their business. Yeah. No, I don't agree with that. If I have to set boundaries with someone, they're out of my life. That doesn't make any sense at all to me. Yeah. Think about it. Anyway, wonder what Jordan Peterson would say. He's very smart. I wonder what he would say about that. I don't always agree with everything he says, but he's a smart guy. Anyway, I got to go. Thanks so much for joining me. I'll be back again tomorrow. Those are my Tuesdays and Thursday nights are my regularly scheduled lives. It'll be in the link in the bio. So check out not in the link, but it'll be in the bio. Check out the link in the bio. That's all my courses, the free behavior board and coaching, and all the information's in there. So I'll be back again tomorrow. And thanks so much for joining me. Bye now.